Hey, 4xe fans, there's been a little bit of a development, at least in our perception of things, in the 95B recall and some of the things that can happen afterwards. One of the things that we've discovered is that some people can have a check engine light come up 50 and 70 miles later, and that it will throw the code that says that the battery is unstable and needs to be replaced. So that's one thing. The drive cycle isn't always catching it. And so in the beginning, we were kind of like, hey, you got to make sure the dealership's getting this drive cycle done. Now I have the question, is that drive cycle even enough? Because people are throwing check engine lights later. The other weird thing that is happening that I don't really have any understanding, I don't have any explanation, just one of these things that we probably all need to be aware of, is there can be some weird errors that basically cause the system to kind of shut down around the battery. And I've always said there's no gas mode in the Wrangler 4xe, but apparently with this new update, it can actually kind of shut down and avoid that battery. Now, the vehicle goes into like a limp mode, but one big thing to look at is your max regen will not be available. It won't regen at all. You can't turn it on, can't turn it off. I mean, you can't turn it off, of course, if it's not on, but you can't turn the max regen on. And that is a key indicator that we need to watch for. And if you have that happen, it's kind of like get it right to the dealership kind of thing. It's that means the system has detected enough of an issue with the battery that it says, I'm not even going to charge it on regen. I'm going to avoid doing anything with that battery because it has detected an instability in the cells or whatever. So if you find yourself in that situation where you've got a check engine light or not, but the max regen is not available, that's kind of a telltale sign. Now, there will be other indicators on the dash, and operationally the vehicle will operate differently, and it'll more than likely be in like a limp mode. It'll probably limit the speed to like 30 miles an hour, or I've even had some people say 10 mile an hour. But if you have any of that, don't mess around with it. That's the system telling you that it has seen an issue, and it's kind of isolating the battery a little bit and keeping from charging and discharging it. So just wanted to let you know that that's something kind of new, I assume, with this update and everything. And a few of us have just kind of observed that in comments and how people are posting about the issue. And so kind of interesting, and just something to know about. I don't think it's something to worry about. I'm not a sky is falling kind of person, but if you see the system working oddly and you can't turn on max regen, then that's something to watch for. Now, the question I've asked a few people this, and I haven't been able to get any answers to anybody, and this is kind of a difficult question. If you don't know about the blended braking system in the Wrangler 4xe, when you put your foot on the brake pedal, you're not actually firing the friction brakes right away. What you're doing is reversing phases on the three-phase motor in the transmission, and that is where max regen comes from anyway, and it's doing that phase reversal. When you let your foot off the pedal, it's becoming a generator instead of a motor. That's why they're called motor generators. And what I've asked a few people is, does the Jeep feel heavy? Is the braking heavy? I actually had the situation one time where max regen was not usable, and I did something stupid, and I did it experimenting just to see what would happen. I had a code, and it was a coolant pump that was bad, and I wanted to see what would happen if I tried to clear that code. And it did something weird to the system, and I had no regen, and when I put my foot on the brake, it felt like I went from braking a small vehicle to a large vehicle, if that makes sense. The vehicle, you could feel the full 5,000 pounds of this thing when you tried to stop it on the friction brakes alone. And I did little experiments like, using the parking brake in between the seats to like stop it with that to see if it felt the same, and it did. And so if you feel that heaviness along with, maybe you don't use max regen, maybe you never turn that on, but if you feel all of a sudden like you're having to really push the brakes to get the vehicle to stop, that can be a warning sign that the system has kind of isolated that battery out. And it doesn't, because when you're using regen, you're putting power back into the battery, and I'm assuming the Jeep engineers have made a decision that they don't want any power coming in and out of that battery when it detects these issues. So that's why you're losing max regen, and you're probably losing that regenerative braking when you put your foot on the brake pedal. So that's just something else to watch for. Now, I haven't been able to walk people through that explanation. It's kind of hard to understand. It's a feel thing. And the other thing you could look for is the gauge on the right side of the dash. When you're accelerating, of course, that gauge is going to go up, and when you're decelerating, that gauge is going to go down, regardless of whether the gas engine is running or not. That gauge will go up and down, and if it just sits flat, that's another key indicator that the system is kind of isolated around the battery and is just kind of gone into a limp mode. So those are all things to look for, and hope you're doing well in the new year, and thanks for watching. Take care.